Have you ever had the experience where you really have always liked someone in your life, or you even loved them, and suddenly, lately, not so much? Lately, you don't want to be near them. You might avoid their calls. You might not text them back right away. You might not even want to be in the same room with them if they are in the same home. So is it that you're emotionally distant or a narcissist? Not always. So if you're on a healing journey, this is what might be happening to you. Now, first, if you're new here, my name is Michelle Pava. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and finance therapist, and I would love for you to subscribe and ring the bell. Now, also liking this video is really important because unfortunately, YouTube tends to suppress videos that might have some semblance of talking about trauma or healing in some way because it deems it sometimes a little on the sensitive side. And while it is sensitive, I feel like it's very important. So I would rather this video not get suppressed, so liking the video really would help. So let's talk about this. You're not feeling good. You might feel some shame or some anger at yourself because you just don't know what's going on. Maybe you think you have relationship issues and you just can't pinpoint what the issue is, or you can't pinpoint what it is about that other person that you just don't want anymore. You don't want that person in your life, it feels like, but yet you still love them. You still have this feeling of connection to them in some way, but you can't seem to make it work the way it used to. So if you've been on a healing journey, what's been happening is you've had rose-colored glasses on for many, many years. You've had to do that as a coping strategy. Let's just say as a child, you had trauma, you had abuse, maybe you had neglect, or maybe you feel like it wasn't as bad as all of that, but you were maybe seeing some addiction or some narcissistic behavior. So whatever the label is that you feel comfortable with, it is what it is. But the bottom line is, you had to develop some coping strategies so that you could remain somewhat positive and somewhat functional in your life. And some of that coping strategy was having rose-colored glasses on. So what do rose-colored glasses do for you? So rose-colored glasses help you to see the world more positively in more of a fantasy base. So you might have become a little bit more codependent. You might have been someone who not necessarily was very codependent, or maybe you were, but maybe you were a little bit codependent and you just saw everyone as this injured soul that you needed to help, and you couldn't get mad at anyone because you didn't learn as a child that it was okay to be mad at someone. It was okay to have boundaries. It was okay to be mad if someone crossed your boundaries, because as a child of neglect, of abuse, of anything, sarcasm, of any negativity, you just learned early on that you didn't really have anything that mattered. So if you didn't matter, and you needed to cope, you needed to have rose-colored glasses to kind of navigate you through life. So this is somebody who maybe you were in pain, you were sad, but you had to smile, you had to laugh it off, you had to just get up and go to school the next day, you had to get a job, you had to be successful. And all of this is good because it's helping you to be functional, but it's not helping you to be happy. So a lot of times we talk about being functional in therapy, but being functional and being happy are two different things. This is why we get shocked. This is why we get blindsided when we hear about someone that we know that we think is fine on the surface and they try to commit suicide, or they do commit suicide. We suddenly don't understand, how could this have happened? We see this a lot with teenagers. So suicide in teenagers those rates are going up, but yet if you ask most people to look at a group of teenagers, you would never say, oh yeah, that one right there looks like they're going to have problems and we need to intervene. A lot of times these teenagers, these adults, are going through their life functional and very happy, looking to the outside. But inside they're in a lot of pain. So they're learning how to keep those rose-colored glasses on, and they're learning how to project that onto others. And that's why we think that they're happy. This might have been happening to you, maybe not to the extent that you were thinking about ending anything, but maybe you just walked around during your life and had that rose-colored glass as a coping strategy. So you know what it is to feel not very happy, but yet have a smile onto the outside world. You act like everything's fine because you want to fit in, or you don't want anyone to know the pain that you're enduring, or the betrayal that you have at home, or the emptiness that you might have at home. So you just got used to acting like everything is okay. And that is the problem with rose-colored glasses, because no one actually knows what you're truly feeling. But here's what happens when you start healing. When you start healing, all of a sudden, you don't want to be treated like a doormat anymore because your therapist is telling you that you deserve better. All of a sudden, you expect more in your relationships. All of a sudden, you're sick of people just taking advantage of you. All of a sudden, you're mad about what you endured as a child. You're releasing the shame. You're not even in a blame zone. You're just in a I don't want to deal with this zone. You're in a I want to get past this and I want to move into my life, into the life that I deserve. And so when you get to that place, the rose-colored glasses are now coming off. And you're looking around at the people that you've been coping with, because that's what the rose-colored glasses are. You've been learning from a very young age, I have to deal with this kind of a person, and you get attracted to that type of a person. But now with the rose-colored glasses off, during the healing process, as the rose-colored glasses come off, maybe every now and then, and maybe for good, you suddenly see that the people in your life are not the people that you want to surround yourself with. These are people that you don't want in your life anymore. And you might feel a level of guilt or shame that, wait, I don't understand what's happening. I used to love them. I used to like them. I used to love when they would call. I used to love being in the room with them. But now maybe you're seeing them as kind of dead weight. Maybe you're seeing them as someone who just complains all of the time, isn't happy about living, doesn't have gratitude. Maybe you see that person as someone who takes advantage of not only of you, but even other people. You just can't be attracted to someone who you don't respect. And now suddenly you're respecting yourself more and you have higher standards. And that's where sometimes your relationships are fizzling out and it isn't necessarily your fault. It's actually a virtue. It's a happy thing. So as these relationships begin to deteriorate and you feel like they're just fizzling out, or you feel like something's wrong with you, what's happening is something's very right with you. You are healing. You are in a place where you deserve better, and you finally understand that. So the people that are in your life that you met at a very low point in your life, or a point where you were really struggling, if these people didn't work on self-help with you or along the way, their own stuff, you've kind of left them in the dust. And now you're in another place where you're much more healed, and you're craving to be around people that are much more healed. You're craving to be around people that have gratitude and are happy for you and are happy for themselves and want kindness and see the light of the world, not just the darkness of the world, and care about other people and want you to be at your best space always and don't want to take advantage of you. So if you do feel that you're avoiding phone calls or you don't want to be in the same room with someone, don't ignore those feelings, because the very things that will keep you at a certain level of stuck and not progressing in your healing will be putting up with what you do not deserve. You don't deserve to have to avoid people and the pain that they might inflict. You deserve to be independent. And a lot of times people think of independent as you can't love or you can't be attached or connected to someone. Being independent just means you're loving yourself and you're putting yourself as a priority. And that is nothing to be ashamed of. That is not narcissism. Narcissism is a whole different thing. There's different levels to it, and I'm not going to get into it right now. But right now, we're just going to be talking about your healing process. So I would love to know, when has this ever happened to you? Has this ever happened to you where you felt like you sort of outgrew someone, or you just suddenly didn't understand why you didn't want them in your life, and then maybe later you realized, or even right now you're realizing, that this is someone who just isn't where you are because of your healing process. And it doesn't mean that you have to negate anyone who hasn't come along for the healing ride. It just means that you might need to put some distance between you and that person. You can still love them, but you can now move forward and collect other people in your life that are going to support not only your healing, but who you are as a person right now.